right, a very good evening to you. Welcome to Breaking Today. My name is Frederick Muitiriri. On a night when EACC officers raided KEMSA offices here in Nairobi, I'll be telling you that and so much more. But our sign language interpreter tonight is Teresia Washira. Welcome to the bulletin, and these are the highlights. EACC officers raid KEMSA offices over the alleged loss of billions of shillings meant to fight COVID-19. I will not apologize, Kapsaret MP Oscar Sudi tells of his nemesis. Schools will reopen in January. Education CS George Magoha reaffirms government's position. All right, welcome to the bulletin. You know, just a few minutes ago, there was cake eating in the studio with one of the chat spot members, and maybe I ate some cake. That's why I say Teresia. All right, moving on. Officers from Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, EACC, this morning raided KEMSA headquarters in Nairobi in an effort to enhance their investigations on their agency over the COVID-19 graft allegations. The officers raided the premises without any notice, locking all gates with no staff being allowed to leave. Visitors from outside were also barred from accessing the offices. Our reporter Emmanuel Terrell had camped at KEMSA offices and prepared this report.
It was not business as usual at KEMSA offices this morning. EACC extended their investigations to Kenya Medical Supplies Authority following COVID-19 graft allegations of billions of shillings. The officers took possession of electronic data, computers and documents that may link the agency to the corruption allegations leveled against it. KEMSA is accused of misappropriating 7.7 billion shillings tender for the emergency procurement of COVID-19 personal protective equipment PPEs that was to be delivered by July 22nd of 2020. Although the agency has denied over and over again about the graft allegations, the president in the last address gave an ultimatum of a comprehensive report regarding the loss of COVID-19 funds when he fired a warning shot to the Ministry of Health, issuing a 21-day ultimatum to make far-reaching changes.
However, given the compelling public interest on the matter, the relevant agencies should expedite their ongoing investigations and conclude the same within 21 days from the date hereof.
The board of the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority was on Tuesday last week grilled over their handling of procurement of drugs and other goods meant to address the COVID-19 pandemic.
Did you replace that position that he used to hold? What's the logic behind?
It's a new person. It's barely 8 months.
I don't know whether the rules of Senate have changed, but I've sat where you are sitting.
Here to lecture us. You have been
I'm
here
not lecturing
before,
you.
And this is not your time.
How do I answer a question unless you give me a chance to answer it?
You had a time to be a senator before. This is our time, and we are telling you are wrong. You know, you have made billionaires in this Republic of Kenya, and that's why we want you to give us those lists so that the Kenya could know who are these billionaires under your watch.
Madam Chairman, am I going to be allowed to answer questions? Because if I'm not allowed to answer questions, then why was I invited here?
Order.
EACC has at least a week to make a preliminary report into the saga. Emmanuel Terrell, Switch TV.
Indeed, Emmanuel Terrell camped at KEMSA offices earlier this morning. Moving on, a majority of Kenyans are lamenting on the alleged loss of billions of shillings that was meant to fight COVID-19. They say that the debt that has been incurred by the government will leave the country far worse than when the scourge first broke in the country. And as David Kagina is reporting, economists are warning that the current debt management and expenditure by the Kenyan government will take over 10 years post-COVID-19 for Kenya to recover.
According to economic experts, Kenya might take 10 to 15 years before it recovers from the debt ceiling that has resulted from COVID-19.
This is a time bomb. As economists, we have been alarming the country quite often of what is impending. We can call it an impending conflict because the crisis that is supposed to happen here is worse than the American Depression which was there. What exactly am I talking about? As of the year 2013, our debt, that is both domestic and external, stood at 1.8 trillion. That is at the point where Mwai Kibaki was exiting power. Fast forward, 7 years later, the debt now stands at 6.6 trillion. Now, what is alarming is the fact that within the last 90 days, the first 90 days of the coronavirus, there was an amount of 410 billion that had been amassed in terms of debt. Now, the sad story is that this is what is in the public realm. But the actual figures of what we have after digging is that actually we might be looking at a high figure of up to 1 trillion.
With the current government expenditure, what could be the ramifications?
By the year 2023, all our loans are maturing. Okay? By maturing, we mean we took what are known as very expensive loans, high interest, and within very short terms of maturity. One thing I can tell you is that whoever is going to be president come 2022 will be having the hardest ever time in the history of Kenya. One, you'll be facing empty reserves at the treasury. That is one. Number two, you will be facing a huge debt.
Some of the citizens do not really understand as to why the government keeps borrowing, yet the expenditure of the same does not reflect in their pockets.
I could say, number one, it is not acceptable that you are borrowing and you are not returning that money to the society or to help the employment or the unemployment problem. Right now, as we speak, almost everybody is crying. Not even those business people who are doing their own genuine businesses are unable to do anything. And yet there is a lot of money being borrowed by the government on daily basis.
So juzi wametupumbaza na kazi mtaani kwa vijana. Vijana wamesoma, tuko na madiploma, tuko na makaratasi kwa nyumba. Tunaambiwa tuende tufagie mtaro. Tuoshe mtaro, tupewe shilingi 400. And then sometimes huwa wana complain kwa wiki au wengine walipu hizo pesa. So we wonder how the government is spending this 4.5 that they are getting a loan for on a daily basis.
In order to recover from the looming economic crisis, inflation could be the only alternative, which comes at a price.
Right now, the gap between the rich and the poor, known as the Gini coefficient, is standing at 40% right now. If we are to raise the prices, the inflation is to go up by 52%, it means that Gini coefficient can rise to the extent of 60%. That means that in Kenya, we'll be having 60% of the population living below the poverty line.
People are not able even to sustain themselves. The government has failed us. That is what we can say.
With Kenyans now not satisfied with the war against graft, some feeling that it could be alienated to political affiliations, then the economy of Kenya is facing a huge risk that will not only take us a decade to recover, but more than that, according to the experts. David Kagina, Switch TV, Nairobi.
Thank you, Kagina. And out of that story, I'm asking you, do you think the government's expenditure during the COVID-19 pandemic is being felt by the ordinary mwananchi? Talk to me on 22999, 22999, or you can Facebook, comment there. On Twitter, you can tweet us at Switch TV KE. Moving on, the Ministry of Health is now warning politicians against the rampant political gatherings that are being experienced in the country. The ministry has warned that the gatherings could lead to spiking of local transmission. Meanwhile, CS Rashid Aman has urged Kenyans to stop stigmatization of COVID-19 recovered patients and instead accord them support for their mental well-being. Daniel Karaoke with more.
Speaking at Afia House, Chief Administrative Secretary Rashid Aman condemned large political gatherings that are becoming rampant, warning that it could cause mass transmission of COVID-19.
Political leaders, we urge them to desist from holding political meetings that draw large, frenzied crowds.
Aman also noted that the ministry was noticing high levels of stigmatization on patients being discharged from health facilities and urged the public to accord the recovered patients the much needed support.
I want to appeal to those among us who are stigmatizing those who have recovered to please cease doing this. Stigmatization drives the disease underground and defeats efforts at containing the spread of the virus.
Also speaking at the same event, CAS for Foreign Affairs Ministry Ababu Namwamba received a donation of PPEs from Arab Republic of Egypt, adding that Kenya had donated $2 million to the African Union COVID-19 Response Fund.
As mandated by His Excellency the President and the National Emergency Response Committee on Coronavirus, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs remains fully committed to supporting the Ministry of Health and other government agencies.
Meanwhile, final clinical trials for coronavirus vaccine developed by AstraZeneca and Oxford University has been put on hold after participants had an adverse reaction in the United Kingdom as the world continues to battle with the crisis. Daniel Karaoke for Switch TV.
And from that story, we take a quick break. We'll be back with more in a short while. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha has clarified that all education institutions will reopen in January 2021 as earlier announced. Speaking to journalists after inspecting the preparedness of Pwani University in Kilifi County, the Cabinet Secretary reiterated the government's position on the reopening of schools. Middle-level colleges and universities are not going to change. Nyakundi Kelvin with more.
Education Cabinet Secretary George Magoha has asked the court to dismiss a case by a parent seeking to have schools reopened amid COVID-19 pandemic. He noted that unplanned reopening of schools will undermine the containment measures already put in place.
The position has not changed. We said when we closed down the schools after a period that the opening of the schools will be in January 2021. So that statement is still there. But depending on how the virus behaves and on the ability of the schools to comply with certain things, then we shall relook.
Magoha added that the schools that are to resume after fully complying with the health protocols are colleges of health sciences in order for the students, especially those in nursing schools, to help in combating COVID-19.
All this flip-flopping that I've said, when I say that we can open early, I'm talking about universities, nursing schools, and we have already seen, for example, the colleges of health sciences. Because we need the doctors yesterday, the doctors must come back and finish their exams and be posted to come and help, even here in Kilifi. The next group will be schools of nursing, TVETs, and TTCs. What is so difficult from you synthesizing that and saying it the way it has been said? If there is going to be a change, we said the curve must be below 5% for at least 14 days.
According to Magoha, the government has developed a prototype of the type of desks it wants made for schools, and that all the 47 county commissioners have been called to Nairobi to take the design of the prototype to be replicated at the sub-county level. According to the CS, a committee is in partnership with the Health and Education Cabinet Secretaries to come up with safety protocols on reopening of educational institutions amid COVID-19. Nyakundi Kelvin, Switch TV.
Thank you, Nyakundi. Embattled Kapsaret Member of Parliament Oscar Sudi affirms that he won't apologize over his controversial remarks on President Uhuru Kenyatta and his family. Sudi said he did not abuse anyone, and those condemning him are brokers and looters who, according to him, had destroyed the country.
Kapsaret MP Oscar Sudi has refused to take back his controversial remarks on President Uhuru Kenyatta and his family.
Nataka mtu mmoja ajitokeze na niambie makosa yenye ulisema ama makosa yenye ulitamuka kuhusu mama ni hapo.
The lawmaker also insisted that he did not speak on behalf of the Deputy President William Ruto and that he has his own brains to speak his mind.
Na niko na fikira yangu. na kichwa yangu haijairuka hata siku moja. Mambo yote niliongea ni mambo yanatoka kwa kinywa yangu.
This comes after the embattled MP received condemnation by leaders from across the country for abusing the former First Lady, Mama Ngina Kenyatta, and the President. But Sudi insists that he was very surprised to see so many leaders, especially women, agitated by his remarks.
Na nilishangaa sana jana kuona wamama wengi wanasanyana ama watu wengi wanakusanyika. Nataka niweke record straight ya kwamba kila mtu ako na mama yake. Na kama ile pati ya matuzi ni ile nilisema matiti, iko kwa Biblia.
As the country heads to the 2022 general elections, much political heat is expected in the coming months following the already rising political temperatures. Vicky Mugambi reporting for Switch TV.
All right, elsewhere, women leaders want to Rift Valley MPs Joanna Ngeno and Oscar Sudi to apologize in 7 days, led by Nyeri Deputy Governor Caroline Karugu and Maendeleo ya Wanawake Vice Chairperson Purity Ngunjiri. The leaders said their duo disrespected women, hence they should apologize or face mass protest. The women have warned that their remarks could easily fuel tribal animosity and should be condemned. Nyeri Town MP Ngunjiri Wambogo also added that Sudi and Ngeno remarks are meant to cause hatred ahead of 2022 politics. They're singing that women should be respected. That's what they're saying in the Kikuyu language. Moving on. Third Way Alliance Party leader Ekuru Aukot has officially been expelled from the party as a member and the party leader of alleged gross misconduct, among other allegations. The decision was made by the party's executive council after receiving recommendations from the party's disciplinary committee. Wellington Ojong with more.
Dr. Ekuru Aukot is hereby today expelled and dismissed. Those are the words of the Secretary General of the Third Way Alliance Party, Frederick Okango. Ekuru is accused of gross misconduct, lack of respect to the NEC members, misappropriation of funds amounting to over 500 million shillings, among other issues.
As we speak today, this NEC, which is the supreme organ of the party, has today expelled Dr. Ekuru Aukot from Third Way Alliance Kenya and also dismissed him from his position as the party leader. We are talking of over 500 million from 2017.
On the 27th August, Aukot is said to have intimidated security guards at the party's headquarters using his bodyguards and drunk goons, then went ahead to hurl insults to two officials in their offices.
Dr. Aukot, who was drunk, immediately stormed the executive director's office and started throwing insults at the two officials, that is the national chairman and the executive director. He went on with verbal onslaught, as usual, using offensive and foul words like chokora. Actually, he referred to the national chairman, Mr. Miruaru, as a chokora.
The SG also claimed that Ekuru was given an opportunity to defend himself over the serious allegations but failed to do so. Taking over his position in an acting capacity is the deputy party leader Angela Mwikali, who was given the party's constitution as a sign of endorsement.
I pledge to work together with the team while adhering to every constitutional provision in steering the party to greater heights.
After being suspended from the party over several allegations, including gross misconduct, Dr. Ekuru Aukot today has been dismissed and expelled from the party. With their famous slogan, Punguza Mzigo, today, the Third Way Alliance Party, Wamepunguza Mzigo. Reporting for City TV, I'm Wellington Ojwang.
You know, a party leader being expelled from the party he created. All right. It's called democracy in the country. Moving on. Tharaka Nithi Governor Muthomi Njuki has been